Hey, what's up everyone? It's your girl Christina Sayers and welcome to my YouTube channel. Okay, so in this video, I'm going to be talking about why your girl stopped using recreational drugs or drugs and stopped experimenting, if you will, with those drugs. In Jesus' mighty name, let's get into this video. But of course, before we go into the video, let's get into the definition and scripture of recreational drugs, and so forth. Let's get into it. So, recreational drug use, a drug such as cocaine, marijuana, methamphetamine. The definition of drug, a medicine or a substance which has a psychological effect when ingested or otherwise introduced into the body. Matthew 5:8, blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Okay, so when did I start using drugs? Like, when was my first experience? So my first experience was when I was 14 years old and I was at a friend's house. And mind you, this friend's house was basically unsupervised, which of course, as a kid who is rebellious and who doesn't know Christ, I mean, that's an amazing situation. But as we know as adults, and if you're a kid that is awake in a sense spiritually and mature spiritually, you know that's not a good situation and you will flee from that situation. But of course, not me. And so growing up, I should say. And so, yeah, I tried it when I was 14 years old. I tried marijuana when I was 14 years old for the first time. And I remember I was at this specific house with friends. And I remember acting silly and acting goofy. But then I started to feel kind of, after the first hour or so, I felt like a trapped, individual in this vessel, this shell that I was in. That's how I felt. I ended up feeling very out of body, but like still trapped in my body, like not in tune with my body and my spirit and my soul and my bones and my muscles and all that stuff, like as one, like how I am now, like very much in tune with myself, self-control. I don't feel awkward or weird. I don't feel like I'm out of myself. I don't feel like I'm so deep in myself where I'm too deep where I can't get out. You know what I mean? Like it's just like a very godly balance, if you will. And so that was a kind of like my first time trying marijuana. From the Christian side of it, from the spiritual side of it, it was terrible. You know what I mean? Because I'm goofy and fun and silly and all that stuff without even having to take 1 ounce of anything. You feel me? With drugs, it's a very much a gateway, if you will. And it's 1000% was a gateway for me to then go on to try more drugs, right? So by the age of 16, 17 years old, I had, got involved with a boyfriend at the time. He was I don't think he was a drug dealer, but he definitely was into drugs. And so when I started being his girlfriend, not even knowing, by the way, that he did that, he offered it to me. And again, because I already tried marijuana, #gateway drug, and I had like a drink, or like I got drunk one time when I was like probably 15 years old. So then I was like, yeah, like I'll try it. Tried it, I did it, and it was a roller coaster ride. I mean, I was all over the place. I'm not going to get into the full details of it, but like just to paint a picture of an absolute mess, that was me. When my boyfriend at the time and I started to do it, another house I was unsupervised. And then the first time I tried cocaine was around probably 19, 20 years old, right? And this experience was with a guy that I knew, and I went over to his house and I don't know, he just like randomly whipped it out and I was like, what is that? And he explained it to me and I was like, okay. And I just did it. And by this time I was going to college, junior college at that, but like, so I tried that. This is the other part of drugs. It's like, you don't know if your drugs that you're taking is laced with something else, right? You have no idea. Hollywood rolls around, right? And some of you know that I have a Hollywood past. Hollywood rolls around. I'm now, going into Hollywood with all this baggage, with all the superficialness, with all this, drug use and drinking here and there. And, coming from like, a place in a type of lifestyle that I lived, going to one of the most prestigious schools of where I lived. Of course, the industry, the music industry, the entertainment business has a plethora, endless, abundant amount of alcohol and prostitution and drugs and all kinds of things that are of the world, because that's what the industry is. Hollywood is the wicked land of the West. La La Land, wicked land of the West. It really is. Again, with the same type of drugs, with the MJ, especially the cocaine, was a big one in Hollywood specifically, and especially the people that are around. In fact, I always remember like a really close friend of mine at the time being like, yeah, everyone does it, but everyone does not talk about it. And I will never forget that quote ever. It's a flashbulb moment for me. I will never forget that quote because it's so true and it's so disturbing and it's so disgusting, because it's like everyone is basically on some sort of really reckless type of demeanor, because again, cocaine is a drug and it's a very dangerous drug. And in my opinion, because again, it alters, right? Eventually it does alter your mind, it alters your thoughts. And again, why that alteration is happening from a spiritual perspective, again, because it's you're killing yourself, you're abusing yourself, you're abusing your brain with these drugs. So now the enemy and the devils and the demons and the wickedness and the witchcraft and all these things and spells and incantations and all that stuff is able to now lie root in you, because again, you've opened yourself up. You've opened yourself, your gateway, your temple to the works of the flesh and to the enemy. And that's why these demons are able to take root and alter you, you know what I mean, to their liking, right? You are no longer altered to God's liking and working and having self-control in God's liking. You are altered and now functioning as with these demonic powers functioning in you. Do you know what I'm saying? So around, I would say the age of like 25-ish, 26 is really when I started to pull back from the friends that I was around, those people, because we were all broken. So I'm not putting the blame at like those people. And I'm not doing that. I'm just saying like we were all jacked up. We were all broken. We were all doing recreational drugs. We were all doing recreational things, sexual immorality, superficialness, like the whole works, right? Everything the Bible says not to do is what we were doing, basically. So then with all that, the seed of Christ started to just blossom in me. Basically, the seed of Christ was starting to grow, and I was like, okay. And so I realized to myself, because again, in those times of these drug episodes, like you have to keep in mind, there's come downs, right? The come downs were absolutely like death, but not just a physical death, but a mental death. It's awful, 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 awful. It makes you feel like you rather die than be alive. I'm not even joking, that type of come down. So that's what I was dealing with whenever I would party really hard and do these drugs and like be around these people, and especially mixing alcohol. Like 25, 26, I started to realize like I do not want to be in this situation anymore. I want to be healthy completely. I don't want to have to come down anymore and be around fake people, even though I was fake too. So like be around this fake environment. I want to be a genuine person. I want to be an authentic person. I want to make sure that like, I have like the real true fruit of life, which really at the end of the day, I was seeking to have the genuineness of God in my life. I was seeking to be prosperous in God, to be filled with God, to be full with God. That's what I was seeking. You know what I mean? I didn't know, And so I know that everyone is seeking that, but they just don't know it's actually through Jesus Christ. So my final thoughts about this whole thing is that I know for 1,000% that recreational drugs, any of that, is very, very dangerous, very injurious, very much so. And it is nothing to mess around with, okay? Because just because I made it out, and I made it out from those people, and I had that seed of Christ blossoming, it's not everyone's story. And it's not every Christian story either. There's horrific stories. Part of me really feels like a lot of those people from Skid Row are people that used to be beautiful, young, talented, gifted in whatever way. They came to LA all season, I'm fresh or whatever. And then because of the drug use, because of the alcohol, because of the caffeine, because of all that stuff, because of the late night, early mornings type of situation, they dramatically age. As we know, cigarettes too, it's poison. Liquor is poison. These things are poisonous to you. They dramatically age you, dramatically give you like super wrinkles. Like they make your skin turn to like drenched out, hard leather looking, just jacked up from the flow up. I really feel like those people were once like a part of the Hollywood, either elite or the entourages or just the people around or like the behind the scenes people or whatever. That's not, you know what I'm saying? So again, not proven, but I really feel with like deep discernment and spirituality, God told me this years ago that that could have been you, Christina. That could have been you. And guess what? Those people who are around those people, who knows those people, who now know those people are on Skid Row, have no affiliation with them no more. Another thing that the enemy loves to do, that the devil loves to do, is premature death. You know, why do you think we have so many celebrities who died young? You know, I'm thinking of Mac Miller, Tupac, Marilyn Monroe, James Dean, Whitney Houston, Biggie, Brittany Murphy, Heath Ledger. You know what I mean? These names are just I remember all these. I remember a lot of these even being in Hollywood. You know, I used to even hang out with Johnson & Johnson's daughter. I remember hanging out with her, okay? Many, many times. And she was jacked up from the flow up, just drugged out, right? And then I remember her not being around anymore. And I remember it being like, she's not around anymore, drug overdose. And then we just went back to what we were doing. Not even a remorse, no, not even shedding tears for her. You know what I mean? That's just one person. You know, I never really talk about the people that I used to be around, but since this is a perfect example, I had to give you a perfect example. You know what I mean? Not all of us make it out alive. You know? In fact, I would say a lot of us don't make it out alive. And I mean, like, some of us still might have a life, like a pulse, but we're dead inside. We're walking zombies. Like, I even remember people being like, you know, club promoters starting out all like super fresh and like, you know, they're just like look great, smell great, all this stuff. Within a 3 to 5 year time frame, they look like death walking around. Zombies, okay? Zombies. That's a little bit of my final thoughts. And also, again, with the seed of Christ growing and me trying so hard to get to Christ without even knowing how to, I wanted my self-control back. I wanted to feel balanced. I wanted to have a purpose in life. You know what I mean? And God really gave me all of that. He gave me all of it eventually. Like when I finally understood, when I finally got baptized in the Holy Spirit, when I finally threw out all the trash that I was doing, when He helped me finally to stop all the different things that I was functioning in terms of having sex outside of marriage, having sex before marriage, cursing, drinking, drugging, superficial life, and not serving in church, not even wanting to be around the people in church, not doing anything for His kingdom. He restored me in so many different ways. And so that's why I'm like, I know that taking drugs, recreational drugs, or doing any drugs and experimenting and going to raves and going to, you know, secular concerts or any concerts, and you're doing drugs and you're drinking, it's like family. If you call yourself a Christian or a believer, you have to stop that behavior. What I remember as well is that I would have to hide it from people. Like I felt so isolated in myself. I felt like so like clutched up like a captive in myself because I had to hide it from people. It's like God doesn't want that for you. He wants you to be free. He wants you to be able to have that good fun. You know what I mean? That doesn't involve no drinking, no drugging, no using foul language, no having sex outside of marriage, no having sex before marriage, and so forth. You know what I mean? So those are going to be my final thoughts. Okay, family, so that is it for me. Wherever you are in the world, feel free to like this video, share this video, subscribe to my channel, hit that bell notification if you never want to miss a video from me. Without further ado, that is it from me. Wherever you are in the world, buenos dias, buenos tardes, buenos noches. I love you guys so much, and God bless you, and I will talk to you and see you in the next video. Okay, bye for now.